Letter 1. To the Nice Girl from Akosua. Don't forget that saying no is more than enough words. So the reason why this is one of my favorite letters is because it was really hard for me to say no, and that started at a really young age. And I like to believe that has something to do with, my mom and how she was naturally. She's one of the nicest women that you'll ever meet. And I didn't really see her being so, forthcoming with saying the word no the way that my dad was. He was actually the complete opposite. And I really respected his ability to be direct. And that's something that my mom didn't really have. And so I realized that it was a little bit of a pathological relationship that I had with the word no. And as I decided to pursue my writing and also start a business and a brand, I had to learn how to be authoritative, and that means I had to learn how to say no. And I feel like those of us who are, nice girls have that issue of balancing when we need to be authoritative versus when we can be our natural nice selves. And I was able to find that balance after having my daughter, but also, taking on a lot of leadership roles that require me to be able to just nip things in the bud. So I would say that's why this is one of my top letters. And the letter really is an emphasis on not having to explain yourself and just being okay with saying no. It's not a negative word. It's just a no. It's not going to hurt anyone. You're not going to hurt anyone's feelings. It's just a word. That's all. Letter 2. Dear Nice Girl, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It is a sign of yielding. So this is my second favorite letter because I feel like Black women have a hard time of asking for help. And my mom did everything, and she basically raised 4 children on her own. Even though she was married, she pretty much, was a single mother. And so she was superwoman to all of us. And I carried that with me. And you hear a lot of people not wanting to ask for help because some people will make you feel like you're a burden to them. And you asking for something is, asking for too much. And when you have that in your life, you want to make sure that you kind of just cut that off immediately. But there are those who are really, there for you and who will help you without question and without anything in return. And those are the people that you really want to lean on. And for me, I am blessed to have that. I have a really great support system, and because of them, I'm able to do a lot of things. Once I had my daughter, I was really stretched with time and trying to find a balance between wanting to continue to pursue my dreams, but also take care of my daughter, who relies on me to provide her with love and nourishment. So with that came with having to ask for help and having to lean on people to be able to help me. And that was the best thing, that I was able to let go of this idea that I have to do everything on my own, because I'm only one person, and eventually you'll just, run yourself into burning or crashing or just being overwhelmed that you can't even take time for yourself. So that's the inspiration behind that letter. Letter 3. Dear Nice Girl, why do you wait until pressure builds on your heart to rise to the occasion? This letter is my third favorite because I basically was the person who was able to work really well under pressure. And a lot of us are like that. When the time comes for us to get something done in a short amount of time, and we know that the pressure's on us, we can get it done, we can execute it. But with that comes, a crash, you're gonna be burnt out. And so I realized that wasn't the right way to live my life. It wasn't the right way to get things done. And that meant I had to address, traits and my personality and characteristics that I have allowed to become who I am. So I had to instill a certain amount of awareness and a certain amount of discipline to be able to get things done in a timely fashion. Because me waiting and, putting off, procrastinating was a big problem. And college is where that really festered. Like for 4 years, that was something that I was kind of like okay with. Something that I would kind of boast about, like, oh, I work really well under pressure. And although, you can't predict everything and sometimes you have to do things last minute, that's still not something that you want to live your life around. So I had to learn how to plan. And that was another thing. Like, I used to hear that, oh, you have to plan it, you have to plan it. And I'm just like, well, I feel like I plan it. But I realized when you plan, you have to, get things done little by little. And you have to be okay with, all right, maybe you wrote 10 things out for the day and you only got one of them done. That's fine. Or maybe you got 2 of them done. Now you need to make sure you start prioritizing. What's the first thing? What's the second thing? And the more and more that I started doing that, the more and more I was less, stressed out in a position where I feel like I'm trying to get something done and I only have 24 hours to do that. Like if you have a 15-page paper and you didn't start it and you got that paper assignment 3 weeks in advance and now you're doing it in 24 hours, that's a problem. So that's pretty much where that letter comes from, because I was that person. Letter 4, that sureness of self is sexy. This is one of my favorite letters, and I also got a lot of great feedback on this letter because I feel like self-confidence in women is a struggle. And for me personally, it was a struggle. And I had to come to a realization that, me coming into myself and me understanding who I am allowed me to, love myself more, allowed me to have more confidence in myself. And I think that's really sexy. And I want other women to do the same thing, right? Are you sure about who you are as an individual? Are you sure about yourself as a partner, as a mother, as a writer, whatever it is that you do? That sureness of who you are kind of radiates in your being, and I think that is like the best thing in the world. And once I was able to live in that, it just made me really confident in who I am. Letter 5. Dear nice girl, remember that time you had to flex? Keep doing that. Get uncomfortable and stay present in it. So the story behind this letter is basically challenging myself continually and allowing myself to be uncomfortable. Like, for example, speaking in front of the camera. Really uncomfortable at first, but now I'm getting better. Another example was when I was a TA for ballroom dance. I had to basically take over one of the classes, and I had to do it by myself. And I wasn't like what I call the lead TA. I was, a part of the group of TAs, but I wasn't the top TA. So I was pretty comfortable in that because I wasn't the one that, had to actually lead the class. But that day, no one else was able to do it. I was the only one, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna shit my pants because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to teach them. And what that really spoke to was just me being insecure in my ability to teach, my ability to lead, and second guessing myself, like maybe they're not going to understand me, maybe I'm not going to explain it right. And then one of the lead TAs, she just pushed me in there like, you're going to do fine. She reassured me, and it just spoke to me being seen as the nice girl. I'm like, oh, your feedback is really nice, but like some people want harsh feedback. So it's just like, I kind of took that personally, but it was just like, listen, you got to get this done. And I had to just get out of my own head. And it was really good. Like, a lot of people found that I was helpful. And it didn't have to, do with anything of if one student likes it this way. It's like, okay, if you like harsh, commentary and you want me to be more direct, that's fine. But it's not judgment or implication that I'm incapable of helping another student figure out a dance, or helping 10, 20 students figure out a dance move, understanding it, breaking it down, and then, having them do it and learn it and pick it up. So I like to, put myself in situations that I know this makes me uncomfortable for a reason. And in the end, like once I'm done with this, I know that I'm going to grow in a particular way. I know that my confidence is going to be even higher because I allowed myself to do something that I wasn't uncomfortable with. A lot of people, when they're uncomfortable with something, they're just like, okay, I'm not doing this. Like, this is out of my comfort zone. And I push against that. I really encourage people to do things that really do make them uncomfortable, because in the end, you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. And you're going to come out, a better person. You're going to come out a stronger person. Whatever it is that was blocking you mentally from thinking that you can't do it, after you do it, then okay, that was just me being in my head. So sometimes you got to flex. Letter 6. Put value on your time unapologetically and like a boss. Yep, I said that right. Put value on your time unapologetically and like a boss. It's one of my favorite letters because that quote, don't waste my time. Time is money. Just things that have to do with people not getting their time back. I really didn't understand what they meant, truly understand what they meant, because it's like, all right, your time was wasted, get over it. But it's really when you think about it, you're like, damn, you really did waste my time and I can't get that back. I feel some type of way about that now. So for me, that transition happened once I had Maddie, because I was on her time, right? She had to breastfeed every 30 minutes. When she would get older, it was stretched to every 2 hours, but I had to adjust to her time. And that meant that my time was way more valuable than what I used to treat it like. And so I had to cut out a lot of crap that just was a waste of my time, period. But that showed me and helped me to actually put value on my time. And even if someone didn't get it, it didn't mean that I didn't see it the way that I see it now. So me being a businesswoman now, it's just you cannot get your time back if you put it into something. And so are you moving with intention? Are you using your time with intention? That became something that I started to really build myself upon, because I started to get so much done when I actually started to say no to things, started to prioritize what I was going to do with my time. And it really truly shifted my ideology on what time meant. And I just can't go back. Me thinking about time and the way that I used to is just not the same, because I value it so much, because I'm here in the present. And once that time is gone, I cannot get it back. So am I doing things that are worth my time? Am I putting my energy into things that are going to be worth my time? Especially now that we live in an age where time is money and time is valuable. You want to make sure that what you use and what you do with your time is intentional and it adds value. Letter 7. Dear nice girl, I know it's getting hard and I know you want to quit. But think about why instead of how come. I want to make sure I said that right. I sure did. Okay, so this, the bus.
So this?
All right, so this letter basically represents my plateau with my business. which happens to everyone, and I had to learn that. But you get to a point, and it's not even if you have a business. It can just be in life. It can be if you're writing a book. It can be if you are hitting the gym. It can be if you're a singer. Like, it can be a lot of different things that this apply to. But my experience personally was in business and hitting a plateau. So I was, getting good clientele. I was doing well. I was getting great feedback. And then all of a sudden, I just felt like nothing was happening for Akosua.com. Like, nothing was happening. I'm like, all right, well, my IG followers is going up, but it's not reflecting any sales. Like, just self-pity party right here. Like, everything I felt like I was doing just wasn't working. And it started to feel like, well, how come this is happening? Like, and then, you start to compare yourself to other people. It's like, well, how come, they have that? How come, they're doing better than me? So instead of saying, how come this is happening? How come that's happening? I like to just stop and reflect and say, okay, well, why did you start writing? Why did you start Akosua LLC? Why did you, decide to do these different things? And so my answer will be like, well, I started writing because we decided to use my skill to create a business. Why did I start Akosua LLC? I wanted to create I wanted to create a platform for my writing and potentially create a platform for other writers. Why did I don't even know. I can't even think of something else. But those two are like the main examples of answering those questions about why. Because then you hold yourself accountable again to not feel like, well, how come? Because how come makes it seem like you're powerless and you have no control, because then it makes it seem like the forces are just against you. But when you say why, it's like, okay, well, when you made this choice, why did you do that? And you should have an answer to why you did things, because you made that choice. And so it's a little pick-me-up to just, not start to overthink and overcomplicate your process, because a plateau is going to happen. You just have to... Okay.
A plateau is going to happen.
All right. So a plateau it's going to happen regardless. You just have to learn to adjust and, go in, I can't say the word. What's another word? Adjust. You have to adjust and just go in and make changes that are going to, bring you out of that plateau. But that just means you have to go harder. That means you have to be consistent. That means you have to be resilient. You have to be vigilant. So that letter is really speaking on a moment of going into a plateau, whatever that can be, and getting out of that. Because you don't want to just sit and sulk. That's really not going to do you any good. You want to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. Letter 8. Dear nice girl, failing is temporary. Never starting lasts forever. And this is kind of like related to letter 7 that I just read, because I'm so glad that I took that leap of faith when after I was fired while pregnant. Instead of going and getting another job, I decided to invest in myself and my writing. And I can't be more grateful that I did. I think that was the best choice that I ever made. And as a result, I'm able to say that I actually did what I wanted to do. I actually went for my goals and my dreams and my passions. And I want to use this letter to really help other nice girls do the same thing. Like, even if you fail, the fact that you did it, you're going to feel good about that. But if you never start, that's always going to last forever and potentially haunt you forever. So my advice will always be to do it as opposed to not do it. Because once you start, you're going to be happy that you did it. Letter 9. Dear nice girl, work on becoming self-aware. Endlessly self-aware. Self-awareness is key. This is one of my favorite letters because after I was fired while pregnant with my daughter, I really got the time to spend with myself like I've never done before. And I've got to really sit with my thoughts and sit with, just my body, my being, and get to know myself on a more intimate level, and a more deeper level. And that came with, taking accountability. That came with, reflecting on the things that I did and didn't like about myself, reflecting on things that I wanted to improve about myself, that I wanted to change. And that takes time. That's not going to happen overnight. But I want women to, really understand who they are. And for me, like, doing that helped me get comfortable with understanding that I have similar traits to my mom. Even some movements that I have is very similar to her. My writing is very similar to my dad, and just, having that awareness that my writing is a reflection of my dad, just understanding who I am to the core, understanding that I am a nice girl and that's okay, but now how do I be this person that I also want to be? And how do I, make sure that I'm not changing myself but building myself? That self-awareness helps you be comfortable and confident in who you are. It helps you accept who you are and also, build up on who you are. So I encourage people to just sit with themselves. And the funny thing is, you will be uncomfortable. Like, it's not just a pretty process. Like, you understanding who you are means that you're understanding your bad habits, you're understanding your trauma, you're understanding your triggers. Like, that is something that once you are aware of, instead of letting that control you, you now know that you have the power to control it. And that comes with, realizing who you are and also working on who you are up here. So yeah, that's one of my favorite letters, because I would say that process took me, like I said, 1.5 years. And that sounds like a little bit, but in the process, you're like, well, damn, 1.5 years later, like I just figured out who I am, and I'm now just understanding what it means to be me. And now I can use that awareness to do, what it is that I want to do and become who I want to become. Letter 10. Find power in your words and speak up for yourself. Oh God, where do I start? All right, so again, as a nice girl and as someone who lives in, the niceness that is spoken against in society, I really had a hard time speaking up for myself. And it's so funny because I'm a writer, but I was able to write more than I was able to translate that, through my physical body. And I realized that was something that I had to change, especially as a businesswoman and especially as a mom. You have to become comfortable with that. And it was just an interesting process for me to realize that I wasn't, and to kind of go deep into why that was. Especially when I would, think later on what I should have said. It's like, well, you didn't say that, so that doesn't matter anymore. But once I really understood the power of my words, that's when I really was like, you know what? I don't have to take certain things. And I do have an opinion about that. And I do have something to say about that. And so now I'm going to say it. And that for me, when I transitioned into, really just speaking up for myself, a lot of things changed and a lot of things happened in my favor. I felt better about myself. I used to remember, certain things, letting it go, letting it slide. And then later on, you're the one that's, beating yourself up about it. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You made a choice not to say that. And now you're living with that choice, even though you're upset about it. But if you just say what you have to say, then you get to get across whatever feelings, whatever emotion that you have. and you want to make sure that you leave, you know, at peace. And peace is a really big thing for speaking up speaking up for yourself. You want to feel like, you know, your voice is heard, your voice matters, and you want to make sure people are taking you serious. So yes, finding power in my words, finding power in, you know, more than just writing down what I have to say, but also speaking about what I have to say. What happened for me was realizing, you know, how being passive created a lot of confusion for me and a lot of confusion for the relationships that I have, and making sure that I'm changing that, you know, not moving that forward, because I'm realizing if I want people to understand me and, you know, be clear about who I am, I need to be clear about who I am, and I need to use that using my mouth, using the words that come out of my mouth. So yes, find power in your words and speak up for yourself. That's something that was really big for me, and something that I do to this day for sure. Thank you guys so much for listening to my top 10 letters from Dear Nice Girl. Make sure you get your free copy by clicking the link. I also encourage you guys to write your own letters. I started writing letters because of Lucille Clifton, and she changed my life. I first wrote letters to my mom and then wrote letters to my dad, and that was actually a healing process for me, and I know that it can be the same for you guys as well.